Shadows hum like whispers in the deep dark night.
Welcome to the AI Riff, where we cut through the noise and break down the top AI stories of the week with real talk and real relevance. No hype, no fluff, just a vendor-agnostic take on what's actually shaping your world today. Whether you're in tech, lending, or just trying to make sense of the headlines, we're here to separate the wheat from the chaff and the facts from the fiction. Now let's get this started with your hosts, Mario Diabenedetto, Rob Katz, and me, Kyle Myers. We hope you enjoy this episode of the AI Riff.
And we're back for episode 46.
46. I don't think that there's any significance to that number.
There is significance to every number.
There is. I'd like to be 46 again.
I think, sadly, all three of us probably feel that. But
Man,
Rob, your voice
cold, Rob, because your voice is really a lot deeper than normal. But
yeah, well, you know, it's been really tough here in Scottsdale. It's been really hard for the weather's just gotten down to like 65 at night. It's catching something.
I noticed you've gone with a really solid looking beard and longer hairstyle than before. But wait a second, is that Rob?
No,
I don't think that's Rob.
I'm not that good looking.
We're welcoming back Mike Morehouse to the podcast.
Yeah,
glad to be back.
Good to have you, Mike. So we'll have some fun and we'll riff away, and we'll see if we can stump the Morehouse.
Stump the Morehouse.
Might be easy. You never know.
You never know. Well, let's take it away, Mario. What we got?
So today we're gonna spend some time talking about some predictions by a company called CB Insights. They do a lot of really tremendous research. I'll try to remember to put the link in when we do the notes on the podcast. Mm-hmm. They do a tremendous amount of research into all technology, but AI in particular. And they had 5 different predictions for AI. We're going to kind of cherry pick. We're not going to do all 5, too much to get into. And the first one I wanted to get into was their prediction that multimodal agents are going to basically take over the world, take over the business world from an AI perspective. And multimodal in this context means an agent that has voice, it can text, it can email, it has video, it's multi-mode, and it can basically do all of those things. And the first question I might ask is don't we already have customer service agents that do that, like, in technology, but maybe not. But I think this is kind of front and center because customer service still is, in my mind, one of the easiest places for people to want to apply AI. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's necessarily the easiest to apply AI effectively, but it seems like someplace that everybody really believes, gee, AI really ought to be able to handle that.
They should, except I have a little bit of a, I don't know if I've got it's not an opposition. I agree that AI is probably one of its better uses is in a decision tree process, quickly assess and move it along to get it to where it's got to be in a more friendly way. Like the current way is just stop and start. There's lags, there's everything, and but it's also what I've been seeing, and I'm hoping the price point is going to start coming down. The price point was fairly high for minimum amount of usage for some of these companies. They want you to have like 10 million calls or something, or some crazy number. That's this cost up to 10 million. I'm like, I'm never going to get 10 million calls. Like, and so that I think,
come on, you will.
You
the
may start
is
seeing,
really bad.
I am a popular guy, but I'm not that popular. So I think you might start seeing companies that are getting creative may or may not have the best latency solved, and may or may not have the best model, because they're going to have to come out and let us like a Kimmy. something that's going to be less tokens, less cost. I just fear like you're going to still need someone to pick up that phone. You're going to have so many people on the phone going, representative, and even though it sounds like it's supposed to be a real person, I don't know. That's just my take on it.
I think it all comes down to execution. I mean, there's the cost part of it, but when I went through the article, the first thing that popped into my head was an experience I had last week where I'm using a AI powered chatbot, and I finally, after 15 minutes, I was able to get to a representative. And the reason I think the biggest challenge is, can you master the chatbot, which most companies haven't?
Right.
And then how do you, how are you going to move into the rest of it? To me, it's about execution, and I think cost is going to be second. But if you can get them to work, I think there are going to be some people who are really going to like this. It's going to be very efficient. But otherwise, it's just really becoming another phone tree. I mean, I think we've all old enough to remember when you had receptionists and you had people putting you through. And I remember implementing phone trees. So it's just this a really expensive, highly sophisticated phone tree, and doesn't really solve the problem. If they can make it smart and intelligent, which in theory they should, then I think you're going to get some takers. But at the same time, you're going to get some people I want to talk to a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think underneath the CB Insights prediction is a couple of different things, and we touched on these in the past. There's really, really good video and voice reproduction type technology coming along. So they're saying those things need to mature, obviously, for the multimodal part. But I think built into what they're suggesting is that the technology universally will, I guess not universally, mostly the video and the voice, will solve the problems with latency and interruptions and discontiguous conversations, like that will all become so good that you really will feel like you're talking to something that's efficient on the other end. I don't know that they're necessarily saying it has to feel human, but it will feel efficient at what you're trying to accomplish, which I think if it can do that, that's all people care about. There's always going to be somebody who complains, I'm talking to a machine, I hate it, no matter how good the machine is or is not. But most people will just want to, like your point, right? They just want to get the answer they want to get. They just, without too many clicks, right? That's kind of the human nature of the equation, I think.
No, I think so. One of the other things that occurred to me is it's the technology's there, but it's still incumbent upon whoever's deploying it. If you're working at a company, is how do you populate it? How do you do that? And I think that we may already have a lot of the technology in the AI chatbots. It's good enough, but is the data that's being put in? So there's two parts of the equation, which is technology works, but now we have to populate it so it is smart and is responsive. And I think that is probably one of the bigger battles of how do you get enough in there to make it really snappy
and economically, right? This is where we've talked about this idea that the larger players have an advantage because they can afford to spend on different tooling than the smaller guys, right? This isn't necessarily just go grab a piece of software off the shelf, right? To your point, Mike, you've got to do some heavy training. So whether you're creating a knowledge base and putting RAG on it or like whatever it is, it's probably to be good. It's more than just what it already knows. Like you've got to teach it a lot about your business. Okay, well that costs money, right? There's not a million tools out there that say, just throw me everything you have in every form, transcripts and documents and videos and pictures, and I'll figure out what you do and how to answer questions. Like, I don't think that works.
No, and I think the size of your company too is really going to depend on how quickly you're going to be able to use this. Because I honestly, and I'm going back to it, I don't mean to beat it up, but I just feel like this latency problem being solved got really expensive, and it's in what I've seen, and maybe there's some new players in the market in the past 3 months. This market can change that quickly. So maybe there's some better players in the market. And I've been working on a side project where we could use this. We could use the voice interviewing, basically, a customer. And the interview has to sound like you're talking to somebody, a trusted advisor. And if that interview process is expensive, then it drives the cost of the client, obtaining the client back up. And we've already got, especially in the mortgage industry, you're facing, anywhere between $12,000 and $14,000 to originate a loan. I mean, it's like, it's getting crazy. I remember when it was audacious at 9,000, and now it's gotten even more. So as you add these layers, we, as leaders, we have to decide, does this get us another deal? Does this keep another deal? Does this create a servicing experience where we can reduce our costs in the back office? And Mario, you had a thought about maybe it doesn't reduce the back office. Maybe it actually just augments it. So,
yeah, there's this pattern, and the first time I talked about this pattern was when it was really early in this podcast, and he was talking about an ad agency, and the ad agency typically was taking 2 weeks to produce a storyboard of an idea for a client, and with AI they could do it in 2 hours. So you could just say, wow, I just condensed it down to 2 hours. I can get this to the client quicker, and we saved a lot of money doing all that work. But instead what they did was they said, no, why don't we do 10 other ideas? Like, we can do 10 other ideas and figure out which one's best, and then we'll end up with a better product for the customer. And the same pattern in a way showed up in something I saw today, which was about customer service, about this idea that AI is starting to be a cost-effective, at least for somebody, Kyle, cost-effective way to do customer service. And that instead of companies saying, oh, gee, we're getting off cheaper, they're actually hiring more people for the people parts of it to do a better customer service experience for their customers. So they're I don't know if they net spend equal. It didn't really get into that, right? Are they basically spending the same, getting better customer service or whatever? But it was actually growing the pool of people that were doing customer service.
Almost like it's a hybrid approach where you're maybe some of the real rote things that get done get taken care of, and then when you really need some expertise, you're going to speak to a human being. I think I still go back to this whole idea of, when do you do a handoff? When, do you know the limits of your technology? And I think as I'll say, as human beings, we go for let's try to make this thing work, and we're going to be able to replace these people. I'm talking about business leaders, and they're not looking at it, I'll call it from a holistic perspective, is how do I make my business better? And no, a lot of the customer service discussions have not about how do I make my business better. It's how do I make it cheaper? And I think you've got to really take a look at it. I think the other risk that you have is there are going to be companies that don't have the money, so they're going to take this out of the box solution that says, you know what, we have this great servicing solution for you, and it's got everything in there.
Companies. I dealt with their customer service.
Yeah, and so what do you have? You have the sameness tax. Okay, your customer service is the same as Mario's and Kyle. And how to differentiate yourself.
It's reading from a script, and it's really not. It's not intelligent, even though it's human. And it's like like you can have really bad human customer service. Like, there's times where I think I would rather have AI than some of the humans that get put on the phone. And it's the same dynamic, I think, Mike. Right? It's I just want to check a box that I'm doing customer service and that people are doing this. And I don't know if they're not scoring themselves on CUSAT or what they're lacking something, because there's too many of them that I think just do a low quality job.
Yeah, just putting a pin in it, I just think that doing a voice upgrade, an upgrade to an AI voice decision tree, I would struggle, and I don't know if there's if these companies have slide decks on how do you prove the ROI on these things. I mean, because customer experience is so nebulous, and you may get a better score on a rating from some service that does scoring and evaluating your clients and doing that kind of. But how do you put a number on that? Like, that's the part where I think you're going to get some pushback from some of the companies. Like, why do I need that? I got a person. They call them. Yeah, sometimes the phone rings a little bit, or whatever, or sometimes it's a little less. It's clunky, but I know what the ROI is on that. I know what that person costs me, and I know what my service ratings are. And if I'm good across the board but not great, it's really going to be a hard push to get them to kind of push them over the edge into the defending ROI on these things.
So it strikes me that maybe the real opportunity, right, that to get to that ROI is a little bit of a bundling exercise, right? It's like we're talking about AI, but if you're going to implement AI, multimodal AI, something that talks on the phone to your customers, chats with your customers, does it flawlessly, maybe even has fake video or, AI avatars or whatever, maybe what you get bundled in automatically is the thing that can actually do tonal analysis and emotional analysis of the call and actually start scoring you for something that you was never within your reach, right? As a company, maybe that was just annoying to figure out, how do I do that with all my people on the phones and my phone system and whatever else. So you didn't do it, but maybe it gets bundled in and you get more visibility into whether this thing is really functioning or not. And that gives you at least a platform to say, well, then I can at least figure out how to make it better.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a good way of doing it, because I think that's going to end up being, people are going to bundle things. But I think the other part too is, how do you score what goes in? Let's just say that you have an incoming call, and how do you score it to where it gets handled by AI? It could be a very simple. We're using servicing. I just really need to know what my impound account has got in it. It could be that's a very simple one. Probably uses very few tokens versus something else. So I think there is, top of funnel, you're going to score it, you're going to go in and you're going to say, here's this one's going to go down to the AI. It's very simple, and being able to get those handoffs done. I think if you try to shove everything into AI, you're going to be just like all of us in technology in the past. Remember, the phone tree was kind of such a great thing. We're not going to have a receptionist. It's going to get you to that person. The first time that I had a phone tree forced onto me, what we did is we just gave everybody's direct lines out, right? You need to call somebody, and here it is. And mortgage brokers took advantage of that. So I think it's about the intelligent deployment of it, and not wanting to eat the whole meal in one bite. I'm going to go in and get this insertion point. I'm going to prove it works or it doesn't work, and I'm going to flip over to another. Another part. So I think that's really going to be the important thing.
It's interesting the way you went at that. We actually felt that recently. We had a piece of fairly complex AI technology, and we had customers, and we were iterating through it, and we took a check, and it was costing us double what we originally were paying token-wise. Mm-hmm. So we had really improved our platform. But we had doubled the cost to deliver. And this is where I think it is consistent with what you were saying. We were using a sledgehammer to answer every question. Mm-hmm. And we realized you don't need to, right? You should have some intelligence to say, this is a simple thing to answer. Don't use, 57 calls to answer the simple question. Know it's a simple question and have the intelligence, because you're going to save us money and save them time. And it's fundamentally, it's a natural part of any AI, I think. I mean, maybe a lender doesn't have to live with that experience. It's more the software company that has to deal with that. But it's going to have to happen, right?
Yeah. It could be. You could just ask the customer,
yeah.
Do you want to stay in chat? Do you want to do this? Would you rather get an email? I think one of the things when you think about AI being deployed that a lot of companies haven't looked at is the ability to make intelligent requests to AI for what I'm going to call follow-up information. In other words, it doesn't have to be live. You can do it a follow-up. You can. You don't have the token charges. You can. I really would like to get my my impound account summary. Where would you like us to send it? That's the one. Email. Do that. Great. You'll have it in 10 minutes. You're done. It's a simple request. and you can use AI to be able to route those things and do something very quickly. I think everybody's trying to do everything online. And if you break down a lot of the requests that we have from customer service, a lot of them are just inquiries for information to come out. It does not have to be live. It can be
Yeah,
follow-on.
and Mario, we worked on something similar to that at Bay Equity, so a long time ago. We're looking at those servicing, but it was just pulling documents. We didn't have this AI bot. All we had was it would just pull up, what do you want? You want some servicing docs? Here are the servicing docs. Here's the things you need. But yeah, that simplicity that if you can add that layer of all the way to the customer, because we weren't all the way to the customer, we were to the LO as another point of contact for sales. I mean, that they wanted that point of contact. So if you're going all the way to the client, there's no reason why you can't have it either read what's on the document or get the data that's strapped to the document and be able to give the person the information they need. It just seems really logical that those kind of things, the simple things, but then what happens when they ask the complex question in the middle of the simple questions? And how is that handled, as you alluded to earlier, Mike? When's the handoff? When do you got to go, I really don't know how to answer that. Do you have any other questions, or you want me to give you to a representative?
Right. But we have that now when you speak to, the first line representative. This was my, I can't answer that question. Let me get you to my supervisor, or whatever the line is, and they're reading off the script. You already have a lot of that framework there. There's a decision-making process that's at this level, it's got to be handled by somebody else. I still go back to this idea of, I'm going to get this technology. It's going to do everything for me. It's going to do everything. I'm not going to need people, or we're going to do all these handoffs. You're generally going to be disappointed with it because it's not going to work as advertised. I mean, we all know that AI goes off on its own on a regular basis, if you don't have the constraints put in place. But it's really the intelligent design of what you deploy. And those are some decisions that you have to make them. Where do I want the handoffs, and what needs to be escalated to a human being? And that's what people get upset with, is when you want to talk to somebody, you can't get to them.
All right. Well, that's perfect, because that's going to set in for our exit question on this topic. How long before we're in a situation where I want to talk to your supervisor when you're talking to a human goes to AI?
So you're saying it goes from person to AI. Wow.
Yeah.
How long?
I don't know if it'll ever do that. I think AI would go to a different bot.
Ever?
But I don't think a person would ever they would have the access to the information in front of them because it's through the bot. So I don't think it would ever happen. That's my take.
All right.
I actually think, by the way, I don't think it's a good idea, but I think within a couple of years, it won't be to the supervisor, but it will be, I'm going to hand you off to Bob. I mean, I don't know what you're going to call it, right? We're going to hand you off to Bob, who will be able to help you with this question, because it's going to be beyond the scope. And actually, if you think about it, we're talking about the AI can't handle it. So we're going to take you to a person, but how many times when you get a hold of a person, they don't have the bandwidth, the knowledge is, we're going to hand you off to Bob, who's our customer service supervisor, and it's, it goes through it. So I think I'd say within a couple of years, if not by the end of this year, I would bet that somebody's going to do it.
So, and I'll just add to what you said. How often do you have a human customer service agent who is just typing in what you just said into a system that does a search, and they're scanning it to figure out the answer? Well, they might as well hand that off to AI, right?
Right.
Because AI actually listened, immediately posted the voice version in, so.
But isn't that just the human in the loop, the cycle we're in right now, where maybe it is AI back there and they've got a cautionary tale. They just want to be like, I think I want to have a human in this until we get to a point where we've run enough questions through that we know it's given the right answers.
Yeah.
All right. So my answer is 2.5 years. And if we're still doing this podcast in 2.5 years, you can call me out on whether I got it right or wrong.
We will be, but Mike will no longer be doing it anymore. He'll be going, I'm not going to go on that again. Never again.
No, this is fun. And you guys know that I love AI, but there's the human side, which is you gotta balance this stuff, and I think that's going to be the battle internally. Discussions. What are we going to hand off? What do we do not hand off? I think there's going to be a lot of companies that'll say we're going full AI. They're going to look at the cost, and their eyes are going to go. It's just going to explode. And I don't think we've managed to get the cost down. And right now for voice and video, it's off the charts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And cost for that, and then just the overall what you're hearing with the big boys about their token costs and making. I just hope and pray that they can lower their token costs, because honestly, it's a big inhibitor to many of the small to middle-sized companies from implementing a value-add AI service, because it's a value add. They're not making that much money off of you. It's kind of hard to show the ROI. Now, if you're talking about individual things that replace something, and we can get into ROI figures for how much does the tokens cost, how much is this, but a lot of the stuff we're talking about right now is nebulous. You don't know someone making $15 an hour could have probably answered that question, and that may have been cheaper than the tokens you had to spend to
and
get
you don't
to
know
it.
until after you did it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any surveys on this, but does anybody really care at a customer level? I go back when remember internet browsers. You're gonna be able to have it speak to you. When all of the how many people use text to speech today?
Yeah. Yeah.
On my phone, I do.
Yeah, but it's like
No,
it's
but I'm
not
talking
the
to
primary-
it reads to you. Yeah,
It's not the
it's very
primary way
seldom.
that
Oh, no, not it reading to me. No.
I mean, how many people really care if there's a video or audio?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're on Spotify and on YouTube, so I don't know. Where do we get more views, Mario? Do people listen or they watch?
YouTube.
Okay. So they watch.
They could just listen to YouTube.
Yeah. So I think we've gotten this subject fairly well covered.
This dog has walked.
This dog's walked. So on that note, I'm going to say I'm Kyle Myers.
I'm Mike Morehouse.
And I am still Mario De Benedetto.
And this has been the AI Riff.
Wires hum like whispers in the deep dark night. Shadows dancing strange under neon light. Digits spinning fast like a gambler's hand. The clock chimes change, it's the new command. Oh, the future calls with a voice so clear. A melody of progress in every ear. No turning back, the wheels in motion. A tide of cold like the endless ocean. Binary prophets ride in fading streams. Data flows like rivers fueling all our dreams. Simple or savvy, it's all the same path. Under skies of innovation, we redraw the map. Oh, the future calls with a voice so clear. A melody of progress in every ear. No turning back, the wheels in motion. A tide of cold like the endless ocean. Set the rhythm to the beat of change we sing. Every click and hum a key